Question to the census form.
Indicted or convicted 6 of the president's associates.
Advise staff members at the Natural Resources Conservation Service to avoid saying the term climate change.
Syria also has a relationship with the Kurds, who, by the way, are no angels. Okay?
Get that son of a bitch off the field. He's fired!
Person, woman, man, camera, TV.
Secret Chinese bank account called American soldiers who died in war suckers and losers.
Executive time in the Oval Office every day.
Illegally mismanaging his charitable foundation.
Taking intelligence given to the U.S. by an ally, sharing it with an adversary in the Oval Office.
Despite the constant negative press, Fifi, questionable commutations and or pardons,
Hush money payments made to porn star Stormy Daniels and Playboy model Karen McDougal.
2 Iraqis came here to this country, were radicalized, and they were the masterminds behind the Bowling Green massacre.
Full-throated Trump endorsement of accused child molester Roy Moore.
Russia offered a bounty to Taliban fighters to kill U.S. troops in Afghanistan.
How did you get home? I don't remember. How'd you get there? I don't remember. Where is the place? I don't remember. How many years ago was it? I don't know.
God damn. Just feel like I took an all-inclusive
So this is Trump's most scandalous scandals. But let us remind everyone that Joe Biden is not an angel. What I liked about Trump is that he said what he thought. Oftentimes there were not thoughts that he should have said. But at least what you see is what you get. And even his psychologist's niece, who's trying to make money from telling everybody how dangerous he is, well, in the Middle East, he's responsible for making peace treatments with Arab neighbors. Yes, he probably did a lot of scandalous things to get there. But you know what? I think all politicians are business people. The difference is, are you successful in doing it? Do you get deals done or not? They say that Trump is not successful. Well, I don't know. A lot of not successful people that have towers and property around the world. Joe Biden's scandals may be fewer, but there's still scandals. I mean, using your position as vice president to get your son who can't get a job in an oil company for Ukrainian oil company sounds pretty scandalous to me. And the whole image, you know what I like about Donald Trump? He's not a hypocrite. He says what he thinks. People are like, oh, let's not call it Muslim terror. Let's call it Swedish terror. But you know what? I'm the opposite. I do not have anything against Muslim people. Quite the opposite. I do not like the silence of the lambs, the silence of the masses. This includes every religious groups that's silent while the religious is brutal towards other people. So you can't be a good person and be silent when something bad happens. So what I want to say is, the famous quote that Joe Biden is, people who live in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. He says like, oh, kumbaya, we're all going to be friends. But guess what we discovered, which is something the media doesn't talk about. Well, Trump loses and there's no rioting, America was prepared for huge riots and violence. Guess what? The minute Trump loses, there's no riots. So guess where the violence comes from? This is a huge, huge hint. I mean, if the liberal left in the U.S., extreme left, was so liberal, how come they're responsible for so much violence and rioting? That's what I want to know. So it's interesting. The Trump people weren't violent. It's the other side who was violent. And you know what? When I see 18-year-olds that are in college and they're his supporters, Biden supporters, I don't know. And then you see Trump and he's supported by quite elderly people. I'm sorry, but I think that people that have a life experience have more credit in my eyes than young people. And Biden's population is people influenced by the media. The social media influences people and brainwashes them. And I think what happened to Trump is a tragedy. He's mocked constantly, and he does have achievements. Yes, I am all for people attacking his ecology policy, the way he treats women and minorities. He's not a nice person, but neither is Joe Biden. The difference is that he's not a hypocrite. Melania doesn't show off how she exercises. She exercises a lot. When you're over 40, you need to exercise a lot. Let me ask the big question that I wanted to make the video about in the first place. How come there's no first lady that's fat? Except Barbara Bush. She was the last first lady who was not extremely fit and spent hours looking so. Why does a woman have to be fit? It's nice, it's healthy, but do you really need to be fit in order to be the first lady? That's my question anyway. And so right now, I'm going to my real job. It reminds me, I was like attacked now by a neighbor because I told a violent man who probably killed cats and jumped on pigeons to go away. And I didn't say it in a nice way. You know what? Every time you make a stand, you're not going to be popular. And yes, Trump made horrible, horrible stands. He is racist I'm sure he's racist. I'm sure he's against women. But you know what? I don't think a man like Joe Biden, who made a law that because of it, so many African American men are in prison today because the law was just not looking at what they did. So if you smoke marijuana or you break into a home or you murder someone, you get equal sentences if it's not the first time. There was something deeply disturbing about a person like Joe Biden claiming to be like, I don't know, Jesus Christ superstar. Interesting enough, both men have J in their names, except that Joe Biden thinks he's the J of Jesus, and with Donald Trump, it's only the middle name. So I think Trump will make a comeback after Biden will make a disaster of it. Because he wasn't a good vice president. Obama administration is considered one of the worst in American history. So while I am a liberal person, I'm also a person that's aware of the fact, I wanted to say conscious, of the fact that the world is full of psychopaths. And sometimes, yes, it does take a crazy person to understand crazy people. And being crazy doesn't mean anything negative when you do something for others. Like there's bad crazy, people who scream around and people who do things, like the neighbor who's like, he doesn't care that the homeless guy is in our backyard using water and killing cats. He doesn't mind that, but he will never bring him up to his apartment. He will help cats as long as they're outside. He will make the yard filthy, but he will never take a cat indoors.
That's right, he's a hypocrite.
So he says to me, I'm not your friend, when I said hello. Well, next time I'm not going to say hello. What I learned in Israel is, in Europe, you always say hello to your neighbors, even if you can't stand them. In Israel, people are real. Don't say hello to people that are nasty. Be picky. Choose your friends. And as for nice people, not everybody that acts nice is nice. So I don't buy the whole Joe Biden is a nice guy and he will bring America and he will heal her. What heals for me is the truth, because I think with Trump, what you got is the truth will piss you off and then it will set you free. And as for his niece, the psychologist, it really made me wonder what psychologists do. Bad-mouthing your uncle is really not a nice thing to do. It doesn't show that you have compassion, because I think even the neighbor, I think everyone who acts in a inappropriate way has a wound. We all have wounds, and to put salt on the wounds is the ugliest thing you can do. So that niece is really, I don't know, she's making money from a book or whatever. If she was such a good psychologist, she'd be with her patients, helping them instead of bad-mouthing her uncle, using her position. She didn't become famous because of her own reputation. She became famous taking a ride on her uncle Donald. I don't have a nice uncle either, but I'm not writing books and saying bad things about him. He had at one point a good position in society. I'm not like saying, because nobody would believe me anyway. First, I'm not a psychologist. And that makes me wonder, why do psychologists have so much power in society? I studied psychology. I have a degree. And I'm thinking, what gives psychologists such a powerful position that every dumb thing they say, I'm a counselor, I'm a certified counselor, everything they say is like accepted as the gospel. Psychologists are not very smart. If they were smart, they'd be business people. What they do is manipulate people into coming again and again, because contrary to my job, if you don't come to them, they have no work and no money to buy their fancy schmancy lifestyle. The problem with therapy is that if you look at therapy and ask the therapist how they live, they all live in lavish homes and have big cars and travel a lot. And then people come to them and complain they have miserable lives. So how are you going to be compassionate when you have so much money and you can afford everything? Because when you have a lot of money, even if you're miserable, you're going to be less miserable. You can afford to buy the Rolls Royce or can travel a lot. That makes misery much more tolerable. So that's my little speech that covered Trump hate, liberal hypocrisy, because I am liberal and I'm aware of my hypocrisy, but a lot of liberals are not. And at last, bashing therapists, because you know what? A lot of times you go into these axioms, like these are assertions that you cannot question. Therapy helps people. You know what? I'm the first one to say there's some conditions you really have to go to therapy for. Obsessions, violent behavior, hurting other people or yourself. You really do need to go to therapy, but the therapy has to be very, very focused and limited in time. When you go to therapy like I did without a time limit, and when there's a health insurance that pays for it, like in Europe, and you can just go and talk because nobody talks to you in Europe. You know what I figured in Israel? I'm not always having nice conversations. There are nasty people here too. Humanity is not a perfect world. It's not perfect. Human beings are not perfect. However, you can always find someone to talk to. Always. And that's something that can't be said in America or Europe or other places. Right, Sam? And get yourself a cat. Oh, I see you really got yourself the difference between a dog and a cat. Well, I was going to get you an igloo today. I guess you don't need one. Well, Sam definitely took care of his bed situation. And I'm going to get you an igloo anyway, because you deserve it. Peace, light, and love. And don't forget, elephants are nice when they're not representing political parties. And this has been Breakfast Without Tiffany, because just because we don't support the Trumps doesn't mean we support hypocrisy on the other side either. And let's be thankful for a person who was president. Maybe he made millions, maybe he made a profit, but it's a thankless job. Just like being a teacher is a thankless job. So next time you see Jill Biden running and being all fit and teaching community college, remember that she lives in a very big house and her husband is a public servant. And remember that her son made millions of dollars out of misery in Ukraine, out of oil companies that made a lot of profit from misery, both ecological and human. So don't think that everyone is perfect. That beautiful smile is paid off by very expensive dentists. Peace, light, and love from the channel where you always hear the truth, at least my truth. Because I don't think my truth is the truth, contrary to a lot of hypocrites.